Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Let's talk about robbing a bank.
All right, the combination.
But not just any bank. How about the Spanish Royal Mint? What's up, guys? Welcome to the channel. Andre here. Now, I think it's pretty safe to say that since lockdown started, wherever you are, you've probably been watching a lot of television. I know for us, ever since this started, we've gotten through BoJack Horseman, Castlevania, Dark, Superstore, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, What We Do in the Shadows, Bless This Mess, and just like a whole lot of movies. One of the shows I've been really getting into lately, and the show we're going to talk about today, is called Money Heist on Netflix. Now, it's a terrible name, but it's actually because it's a Spanish show called Casa de Papel, which translated means House of Paper. You have to assume Netflix didn't want to call it that in English because of House of Cards. You can't have two houses with different types of parchment, I guess. Before we go any further with this video, I want to make it very clear, this is the only warning you're going to get. There are going to be spoilers. So if you haven't caught up to the show yet, if you haven't even started watching it, hit pause on this, go watch all 4 seasons of the show, and then come on back. But make sure you come back. First, go, but then come back. As the show progresses, they start to develop a tone and this language about being part of the resistance. They never really explain what it is exactly they're resisting, but since it's 2020, you can pretty much figure it out. Big banks, corporations, fascist governments, that whole kind of nexus of stuff. So really, the show starts to try to balance 2 different tones. One of a pretty standard heist caper show filled with some action and adventure and romance, and then the other having a more overtly political message about subverting power structures and holding governments to account. And the more and more they get into this, the more I start to ask myself, are they? Are they really? I mean, can you be the vanguard of the anti-establishment revolution and also be stealing €1 billion for yourself?
I'm not so sure.
I never knew you to chicken out before.
I got as much nerve as you have any day.
Then what's all the beefing about?
So this brings us to the first big question, and that's, how is it that they're benefiting? And is that benefit somehow incompatible with the idea of being the vanguard of the resistance?
Call it intuition if you like. I just don't like it.
In this case, I think we need to look at 2 very broad categories of benefit. First, the tangible kind, the kind you can measure, like the €1 billion that you're stealing from the Spanish Mint. And the other kind of benefit is intangible. It cannot be measured, it cannot be objectively observed. Kind of like the hope that they might bring to a disenfranchised generation, locked in a perpetual cycle of soul-crushing debt, seemingly from the time they graduate school to the time they die. Who is it that's actually benefiting from what they're doing? If they're anti-establishment revolutionaries, surely anyone but them would be benefiting from their actions.
Come on, snap out of it. This is our biggest haul.
But that's just the thing about this show, is that there is no Robin Hood style steal from the rich and give to the poor anything. They're literally just stealing money, like for themselves. I will grant you that they are super cool, super sexy, exotic Spanish bank robbers. But the part of that sentence to really focus on is the bank robber part. They're not donating to charities. They're not building hospitals in Africa or, constructing ecologically sustainable tiny houses for single moms in the inner city. Literally the only thing that they give to anybody is sort of a satisfaction that maybe they stuck it to the man for a few minutes.
Individuals join groups and organizations in order to satisfy their own personal needs and achieve their own personal goals.
Now let's talk about their motivation. As we're introduced to each member of the team, they all fit pretty much a generic heist trope. There's the techie, the wild card, the muscle, the brains, everybody's there. One by one, we start to learn more and more about each character's background and history, even though they're not supposed to tell each other. And the one thing that we see in common across all of these characters is that they all have, for the most part, a criminal background. These aren't people who are protesting in the streets for free and fair elections. They're not doing Occupy Madrid. These are not individuals who have social consciousness on the mind. They're robbing liquor stores. The major exception here is, of course, the professor. He's the one character that we learn the most about, and through understanding his backstory of what happened to his father and the time he spent in the hospital, it's very easy to understand why he might develop an anti-establishment sentiment. So, if you already have that kind of background and you've had those experiences as a character, and you decide it's probably a good idea to go rob a bank, it makes sense that he would go and strike straight at the heart of the center of power and rob the Spanish Mint. The great thing about the professor, and the thing that I think you're really meant to appreciate, is that he has a reason for what he's doing. You empathize with the experiences that he's had, and it also almost rationalizes or explains why it's kind of okay for him to be doing what he's doing. Even despite all of that, let's not forget the motivation, first and foremost, is to steal the money and keep it for yourself. Again, if the professor was using this money to go out and do charitable works and fund initiatives that would actually help people, you could understand why he's a Robin Hood kind of character. But the bottom line is that he's not doing that. We have no indication at the end of season 2, in the 2 years that passes before the action of season 3, that he's done anything but sit with Raquel on the beach and hang out in Manila. I mean, it's a good life if you can get it, but it's not Robin Hood.
I can define a watch. There's no problem there. But I can't define time.
Naturally, the next question becomes when? When does this message change and why? What causes the shift in language from talking about just robbing a bank to actually caring about the resistance and stopping the system? And that really only happens when, at the beginning of season 3, the Spanish government finally catches up to Rio in Tokyo. They kidnap Rio and they start torturing him. The gang comes back together so that they can rescue Rio. But really, it's only after one of their own is threatened that they really even start to care about talking about going after the system and taking down the government. Their motivation up until that point, over the 2 years between seasons 2 and 3, has just figuring out how to spend their share of €1 billion. Again, this is just a question of self-interest. They really don't care about the fact that the government is behaving badly in a vast international way until it actually impacts them. Everybody kind of knows that governments do shifty stuff, but until these characters are actually directly impacted by it, they don't really care, even though they have the financial means to do something about it. So when we really look at the timing of when they actually start caring about this message of taking down the establishment, for everybody but the professor, it's really only after Rio gets captured. And Rio only gets captured because Rio participated in the heist in the first 2 seasons, which, as we said, was strictly motivated by money. Obviously, the conclusion is pretty simple. These aren't exactly the best examples of freedom fighters you could possibly have. And maybe that's what makes them compelling as characters. They're flawed. That's why we want to watch them, because we want to watch them amble through this epic grand scenario as flawed humans and try to weather that storm. Now, when you put all this together, I'm confident that it sounds like I don't like this show, but nothing could be further from the truth. In fact, I'm literally making a video of this show, talking about it and analyzing it because of how much I like it, and frankly, the fact that nobody I know actually watches it but me. You're filling that proxy role. Thank you. The thing I really enjoy about the show is the way that it takes the heist construct and tries to fit it into different directions, tries to go in different ways. But when you're comparing the professor and his gang to the greatest, most exceptional thief who ever lived, Hans Gruber, it's easy to see that Hans knew exactly who he was in a way that I don't think the professor quite does yet. The professor doesn't seem to want to admit to himself that through and through, he's a thief. He's a bank robber. He, in fact, while aspiring to be an engine of social change, it isn't really, because he's not walking the walk. He's really literally just talking about it. I mean, the bottom line is that this is an awesome show. I cannot wait for it to come back for season 5. But they are not freedom fighters. They are not the resistance. They are Bonnie and Clyde with subtitles. Okay guys, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I know it was quite a departure from the last 6 weeks of videos, which are out and about in the world, exploring different stuff, whether it was downtown DC or the 5 videos throughout Egypt. They can't all be travel videos, and I think this is a cool opportunity to explore some of the themes and concepts in the shows and movies that I really enjoy, kind of open up a dialogue with you guys about what you like. So if you have thoughts about this video, Casa de Papel, or any other stuff that you'd like to see discussed, drop a comment down, say hello, let me know what you think. If you like this video and want to show some support, hit the like button, just give it a little gentle little wiggle with your finger on the trackpad or the mouse or that little rubber pencil thing in the middle of old PC laptop keyboards. Just tickle it. Don't smash it. It's violent. We don't support violence on this channel. Just a little tickle. Hit the subscribe button. That one you hit violently and with passion because you want to follow along. You want to bump me up in the ratings and you want to see what happens next. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Appreciate it. And you will see me in the next video.